Every now and again, I get a movie that is constantly popping up on my For You page on TikTok for days on end, and it's usually the same 2 or 3 clips that without context seems like it's a pretty decent movie or show, and sometimes I'll even go put it in my notes and try to find what the name of the movie is and be like, you know what, I need to watch this later on, or maybe I need to watch this at some point if it's a rainy day and I don't know what to put on. And to give the algorithm some credit on TikTok, sometimes it's a hit, sometimes it's a miss. It's very rarely something that's just okay. Now, in the case of Look Away, I have been seeing clips of this movie probably since about 2022. The movie came out in 2018, but since probably 2020, maybe even 2021, I had seen a lot of edits, certain 2 or 3 clips, like hallway scenes, and it was just never something that seemed like it was up my alley. It kind of just always gave the vibe of like one of those indie films that felt like it probably was trying too hard to be something that it wasn't and trying to be so profound and just failing miserably at it. And I am happy to report I was almost right. Now, before I start off, let me be clear, this is just my opinion and not the opinion, because there is no such thing. But to get into this movie, I actually didn't know it was horror even after seeing out of context clips for years, which, hey, I guess shout out to them, because they know how to pick the scenes that are so vague. You have no idea how to determine what the storyline truly is, but they also pick clips that are also good enough to where you can actually get a good feel of how the movie is going to be. Because had I known it was horror from the get-go, I probably would have given it a shot sooner, because horror is my favorite genre. Love anything horror related, especially small indie budget films, because I feel like sometimes in horror, those are the films that usually allow for a lot of creativity to shine through and give us something fresh in a genre that, you know, is very abundant as far as films are concerned. Now, for this movie, unfortunately, we didn't even make it through Act 1 before the whole thing fell apart for me, and I was completely checked out and only finished it because I try to give every movie that respects, or at least 99% of the movies I watch. I can probably count on one hand the amount of movies I actually stopped watching midway through because I just couldn't do it, and that would be a topic for another day because I don't even feel like getting into that. Because like, fam, and we're getting into spoiler territory, I guess. If you want a spoiler-free review, it is a movie that is all over the place, but has some decent acting from a main character. That's probably the best I can give you as far as being spoiler free, because it gets to the meat and potatoes pretty quickly. But to get into my issues, because I do have a lot, you're telling me that the main character, her name's Maria, was supposed to be a twin, which they showed off the rip. That is the opening shot, is an ultrasound, and the baby's in there doing some fusion looking dance like they're in Dragon Ball Z. But somehow her twin didn't make it, but the soul of the twin somehow inhabited her and is only able to manifest itself all these years later through a mirror, which she has to kiss in order for the dead twin's possession to take over. Like, deadass, this is the movie people are making fan edits over. We have seriously lost the plot, people. Not only that, but we learn later on that her twin actually was born, but because she was born with what I guess was a defect, because they never really specify, but because the baby was born with a defect, her dad, who helped deliver the baby, tossed it out in the cold and left it to die. Which, by the way, did he deliver it by himself? How was he able to just throw a baby out into a cold winter night and nobody said anything? Nothing got, how did they just sweep that under the rug? That is the craziest shit in the world to me. I get it, suspend disbelief in horror movies. I get all of that. That to me is just absolutely unequivocally just terrible writing. But whatever. And the motivation for him doing so is because he's a plastic surgeon who is obsessed with perfection and correcting flaws, which, okay, whatever, cool. Compound that with the fact that the demon mirror twin, because I don't know how the hell you refer to whatever it is in the movie. It's like 3 different things at once. But once our main character got bullied enough, she agreed to let the twin take over to give her the confidence she needed. So what did the twin do? If you guessed that she went on to murder the 2 people our main character actually was cool with, her bully, slice her dad's neck, and then proceed to go lay in the bed with her mom, then hey, good intuition on your part. You might have a future in screenwriting if you came up with that. And if it sounds like I'm being sarcastic, I am, but also if it sounds like I'm just saying stuff and not really giving nuance to plot devices, that's because there is no nuance to pull from. It's like the director came in and at least knew how he wanted to end things, which is fine, which is good, but just started throwing the most random common horror and psychological thriller tropes at the wall and picking the ones that made the most sense for his film is just not the right way to go about having an ending. Fine, cool, you have your ending, that's great, but you can't just start doing typical trope stuff and not have it connect at all and make it make sense. It just doesn't. Like, for example, our main character Maria, they make it very clear she's a depressed girl who gets bullied, who has an eating disorder, and suffers from some form of body image issues. Now here's the thing, there's a very interesting way you can tell that story through horror elements of a perfect plastic surgeon father who killed her twin at birth, and it can be both horrific and diaphanous. Damn, where the fuck did I pull that word from? Like I was saying though, whoever cooked up this premise smoked it. I think it is a phenomenal premise. There's a lot of things here that you can chew from. I just think they just did an absolutely terrible job pulling it together. It just does not have any connective tissue whatsoever. Now keep in mind, I never brought up the acting because I do think the actors here are doing the best with the material given. I mean, I can imagine it being hard to convince the audience you're a maniacal perfectionist plastic surgeon when they only give you like 2 to 3 minute scenes talking to your wife and talking to your daughter, and you're not really having any deep conversations. And by the time you have a deep conversation, you're already 2 minutes away from getting your neck slit. So it's like, how can you really give off that vibe? It just kind of made it seem like he was more of a stoic, uptight guy than a maniacal person. You didn't even really learn how deeply disturbing he was until like the final act, and at that point it's like you were already checked out the movie, or I'm assuming so. I don't know, because like I said, some people like this movie. And also in the case of India Isley, she actually did pretty well, all things considered, even though what I have all these criticisms about the movie, none of it really has to do with her acting. Because I can imagine it being a pretty tall task to act as the same person, but just on 2 opposite ends of the spectrum, and then having a lot of scenes where you have to pretty much act against yourself, and sometimes act against yourself in a mirror. Like, to me, that's pretty tough. And I feel like had she had been a bad actor, those scenes would have been very, very rough watches, but they weren't, because I think she actually did a good job. Now, overall, this is a bad movie. Yeah, I would say so, probably. But are there some redeeming qualities? For sure, for sure. I think the main lead did a good job, all things considered, at least to the point where I'll probably watch another movie she stars in. I'm looking at her IMDb right now, and it isn't the greatest, but I mean, who knows? Now, I also think the setting of this snowy, desolate, rich town worked well as well. Okay. And there actually is some pretty cool cinematography going on at certain points. I just can't really show most of them because they were mostly occurred while she was in a birthday suit. But even with those few positives, trying to sell me on a movie about an evil dead twin existing in a parallel universe in a mirror of a bathroom it was never in is a pretty tall task, especially when you only make it the main focus in the 3rd act. Cool idea, cool concept, but as far as execution goes, I fear this director was swinging way above his weight class, which is admirable, but his name isn't David and there aren't any slingshots nearby. Grade rating, I'll probably go C-, D+. I don't know, I just can't ever see myself sitting down and watching this, and I probably can't even find myself recommending this because it's not even fun bad. It's like constantly tripping over its feet bad. But that'll do it for the review. If you guys enjoyed, make sure you give it a like. I didn't tell you to like at all throughout this whole video. I waited till the end. But to my next one, I'll see you guys when I see you guys. I'm out. Remember to eat your veggies. Have a blessed one.